Okay, in this video what I want to do is go over the cat organs that you're responsible for, and this is a male cat, so we'll at least do those. So starting here in the oral cavity, we have got the gingiva, which is the gums. We've got the space between the gums and the cheek. This is the vestibule. You've got the tongue right here, and these are the papilla on the tongue. This little piece of connective tissue holding the tongue to the base of the mouth, that's called our lingual frenulum. And then if we open this thing up, you can see the epiglottis, which is this little cartilaginous flap right here. And then this open space is our glottis. And that's basically the open space. It's a common opening between the trachea and esophagus. So if I flip this jaw back, next you can see the parotid salivary gland, which is right here. And the parotid salivary gland is the larger one. It's pretty much at the base of the ear. And then if we come down on the base of the jaw, we have our submandibular salivary glands right there. There's your left one, the right one, I don't really see it in there. And then this is our trachea right here. And there's a hard part on it, which is our larynx. And you can see the larynx from here, where the epiglottis is located. Sometimes you can also cut it across right there and open it up, but I've left it intact. So this is your trachea. It looks kind of like a vacuum cleaner or shop vac hose. It's held open by these cartilaginous rings. And then if we go directly underneath this trachea here, you get this large muscular tube, and this is the esophagus. So this is going to travel down and enter into the stomach. And so we can keep going there. So this is our stomach right here. And you can see it has kind of this J shape to it where it comes down, curves, and curves back upward. And so right here is where the esophagus is coming in. There's our esophagus right there. And so if we look at the anatomy of the stomach, if you draw an imaginary line where the esophagus enters in, this little knob above it is called the fundus of the stomach. This area right here is called the cardiac portion or cardiac region. And then this area right here is called the body. And then where it curves, this is called the pylorus. And it's going to enter into the small intestine right here. It's going to enter in through this sphincter called the pyloric sphincter. And the sphincter is actually right there, but I've cut it. And then we also have the gastroesophageal sphincter right there between the stomach and the esophagus. Okay, if we go back a little ways, this is our heart, this is lungs. Now I've removed the upper two lobes on left and right to see these veins a little bit better, but this is all lung. This muscle right here is the diaphragm, and we have this little piece of connective tissue right here. This is called the falciform ligament. Is that what it was? Falciform ligament? Yep. And it's basically between the diaphragm and the liver right here. This is the liver. It's broken down into lobes based on the left and right side. So this would be our left medial lobe. This would be our right lateral lobe, or this would be our left lateral lobe. This large lobe right here is our right medial lobe, and it contains the gallbladder, which is this little green pouch right there. Now this is kind of confusing, but this is our right lateral lobe. So don't let that confuse you. This is all one large lobe on the right side. Then if we look inside here a little bit, we can see our caudate lobe right there, caudate lobe of the liver. Okay, if we go down a little bit, back to our stomach right here. The first region of the small intestine where the stomach enters into, this is called the duodenum. And then on the inner curve of the duodenum, you have pancreas. It's really hard to see, but it kind of looks like oatmeal. It's right there on the inner curve, sort of between the duodenum and the stomach. That's pancreas right there. And then this main portion of the small intestine, this is all jejunum. And then if you look at where the small intestine enters into the large intestine, we call that area of the small intestine the ileum. And so right here, the small intestine is coming in, and this is now large intestine. And so this would be the ileum right here, this last portion of the small intestine where it enters into the large intestine. Now if you look at where it's entering into the large intestine, we have this little pouch right here. This is called the cecum. And if we open this up, we have our ileocecal sphincter right in there. And then when it comes to the large intestine, we have the ascending colon, we have the transverse colon, and then we have the descending colon. And then where the colon passes through the pelvic region, we call that area the rectum. Okay, a couple other organs here. We've got the spleen. This cat's got a very large spleen. They're usually about half this size. And we've got this large piece of fatty membrane. This is called the greater omentum. And then back at the stomach here, this is the lesser omentum. And a couple things I forgot on the stomach. This is the greater curvature of the stomach. It's convex curve. And then this is the lesser curve of the stomach, the concave curve. And so I always associate lesser omentum, lesser curve of the stomach. Okay, these are the kidneys, and if we open the kidneys up, we can see that we have an outer cortex layer and an inner medulla layer. And what we have here is we basically have little ducts draining each of these areas or units, are called nephrons, and they're draining it into this big open space in the center. And this is called the renal pelvis. There you can kind of see the renal pelvis. Just an open area, and the renal pelvis is basically collecting all this material and then sending it down this. It's urine at this point. This is called your ureter, and this would be a left ureter. Right. So the ureter is draining urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder over here. And then we have the urethra, which is now draining the urinary bladder to the outside world. And since this is a male cat, we can look at a few male parts. If you look here, this is the gonadal artery coming down. And at this point, we call this structure the spermatic cord. The spermatic cord basically has arteries, veins, nerves, lymphatics, and the ductus deferens passing through it. And you can see how this is connected right to that testicle right there. So this is the testicle, and you can also see the epididymis right there. That's the head of the epididymis, the body of the epididymis, and then as it curves around the tail. And then this is our ductus deferens, which is running up this way. You can also see the penis on this cat, which I've carefully dissected out. And then on this side of the, you can see the scrotum right here, this side, which I have not dissected out. Okay, next we've got our aortic hiatus. So this is kind of hard to understand, but this is our diaphragm, right? And so if I poke a hole in this thing, and let's say the aorta is going through the hole, well, if I pull the hole out, that would be the aortic hiatus. And so the aortic hiatus is literally the hole in the diaphragm that the aorta passes through. And the esophageal hiatus, same deal. It's the hole in the diaphragm that the esophagus passes through. So right there would be your esophageal hiatus, right there. See that? And again, it's kind of hard to see because the esophagus is in the way right now. Okay,